Picture this. The entire Sunset Ridge neighborhood goes dark during a summer heat wave because of illegal electrical work. And you're the county electrical inspector who has to explain to 847 families why their power won't be restored until every house passes emergency safety inspection. What makes it worse? The HOA president who's been harassing you about your solar panels for 6 months is standing in your office, begging you to rush her inspection because her $89,000 wine collection is spoiling in her temperature-controlled cellar. Too bad she should have thought about electrical safety before trying to find the guy who installed every wire in her house. The irony gets even better when you realize this same woman has been threatening legal action against me for installing the only electrical system in the neighborhood that actually meets current safety codes. While her house sits condemned with 47 electrical violations, my solar panels are powering medical equipment for 3 displaced families who can't return to their homes until complete rewiring is finished. But here's what makes this story absolutely mind-blowing. Janet Morrison didn't just randomly target my solar panels because she disliked their appearance. Her crusade against renewable energy was actually a calculated distraction campaign designed to keep neighbors from asking too many questions about electrical work throughout our community. She needed everyone focused on my aesthetic violations, so nobody would notice the massive electrical fraud happening in their own homes. The real kicker? Janet Morrison's brother-in-law had been running the biggest electrical contractor fraud scheme in Arizona history for 3 years, using fake permits and forged inspections to install dangerous electrical work that violated every safety standard designed to protect families from electrocution and house fires. Janet's attacks on my perfectly legal solar installation were just smokescreens to cover up criminal activity that had been endangering children and elderly residents since the day the neighborhood was built. I'm Marcus Rivera, and 6 months ago, I thought I was living the American dream in Sunset Ridge Estates, one of those picture-perfect planned communities in Phoenix where every lawn looks like a golf course and the HOA dues cost more than most people's rent. My wife Elena and I had just bought our dream house after 12 years of saving every penny while living in a cramped 800-square-foot apartment downtown, where our twin boys Diego and Miguel had to share a converted closet as their bedroom. Elena's a pediatric nurse at Phoenix Children's Hospital who spent the last decade working grueling night shifts, often pulling 12-hour rotations in the neonatal intensive care unit to help us afford this place. I'm a senior electrical inspector for Maricopa County with 23 years of experience ensuring Arizona families have safe electrical systems that won't kill them during scorching summer heat when air conditioning becomes a life-or-death necessity. Those years in our old apartment taught us about electrical priorities the hard way. The building's outdated electrical system couldn't handle air conditioning during peak summer months, forcing us to choose between keeping the boys cool or keeping our refrigerated insulin prescription safe for Elena's father, who lived with us after his diabetes diagnosis. We learned that electrical reliability isn't just about convenience. It's about family safety, medical necessity, and basic human dignity during Arizona's brutal 118-degree summer days. Our twin boys, Diego and Miguel, age 8, were finally going to have their own rooms. Instead of sharing space so cramped, they had to take turns doing homework because there wasn't room for 2 children at the tiny folding table Elena bought at a thrift store. They were going to have a backyard pool instead of splashing in the apartment complex fountain, while dodging glass bottles and watching for maintenance crews who'd stop working whenever children appeared because the property manager didn't want liability issues. Elena was going to have her dream kitchen with proper lighting and enough counter space to meal prep for a family of 4 without resorting to cutting vegetables on our bed because the galley kitchen was too small for both cooking and food storage. She'd been fantasizing about hosting family dinners where relatives didn't have to eat, standing up because our apartment couldn't fit a dining table larger than a card table. The house came with perfect south-facing exposure for solar panels, positioned at the optimal 33-degree angle for maximum energy production in Arizona's intense sunshine that punishes families with $400 per month air conditioning bills during peak summer months. With my electrical background and 2 decades of experience installing renewable energy systems, I knew solar installation would cut our electricity costs by 80%. While teaching Diego and Miguel about sustainable energy solutions their generation will desperately need, as climate change makes Arizona summers even more dangerous. The environmental benefits were obvious to any electrical professional, reducing our carbon footprint by 4,200 pounds of CO2 annually, while demonstrating to our boys that environmental responsibility and financial responsibility go hand in hand. The system would pay for itself in 6 years while providing 30 years of clean energy, essentially guaranteeing Diego and Miguel would inherit a house with minimal electrical costs when they become adults facing their own housing challenges. What I didn't realize was that my practical decision to install clean energy would trigger the most vindictive environmental harassment campaign in Arizona HOA history, orchestrated by a woman whose opposition to renewable energy was actually calculated misdirection designed to protect a criminal conspiracy that had been endangering families for years. I was about to discover that Sunset Ridge Estates wasn't just governed by architectural standards. It was controlled by systematic fraud that put profit over safety, aesthetics over environmental responsibility, and corruption over community welfare. But even more shocking, I was about to learn that Janet Morrison's crusade against my solar panels wasn't random aesthetic nitpicking. It was a desperate attempt to prevent me, as a county electrical inspector, from getting too curious about electrical work throughout the neighborhood that would reveal the biggest contractor fraud scheme in Arizona history, a conspiracy that had been systematically endangering children, elderly residents, and families like mine for 3 years while generating millions in fraudulent profits. Enter Janet Morrison, 51 years old, HOA president for 4 years, interior designer, and the kind of woman who measures her neighbor's grass height with a ruler and fines people for leaving their garage doors open longer than 30 minutes. She drives a white Tesla Model S that she claims proves her environmental commitment, but she's never met a renewable energy project she couldn't find fault with. Janet has this obsession with architectural consistency, which basically means if you weren't here when the neighborhood was built to her exact specifications, any improvement you make is automatically the enemy. When I installed my perfectly legal 8.2 kilowatt solar panel system with full county permits and utility interconnection approval, Janet appeared in my driveway within 24 hours, like some kind of renewable energy detecting vampire. "Marcus, those panels are completely inappropriate for our community aesthetic," she announced, clicking her designer heels against my concrete driveway. The Architectural Review Committee never approved industrial equipment on residential rooftops. I'm holding my county inspection certificate and interconnection paperwork. "Janet, these aren't industrial equipment. They're residential solar panels with full permits from my own department. I literally signed the approval myself." She waves a manila folder, thick with printed emails and HOA bylaws. "I don't care what permits you think you have. Section 4.7 of our CC&Rs clearly states that any exterior modifications require architectural committee approval. You're in violation of community standards." The irony here is incredible. I'm a senior electrical inspector who's been approving renewable energy installations for 15 years. I've personally inspected over 3,000 solar systems across Maricopa County. I wrote the county guidelines for residential solar panel safety requirements. I teach continuing education courses to electrical contractors about photovoltaic system compliance. And this woman is trying to lecture me about electrical permits. "Janet, I've been installing solar systems since before Tesla was making cars. My installation exceeds all electrical and building codes. The panels are American-made, the inverters are certified, and the system actually increases property values." She crosses her arms and gives me that condescending smile you see on people who think they hold all the cards. Property values are exactly my concern. Industrial-looking equipment ruins our neighborhood's upscale residential character. I'm giving you 30 days to remove them voluntarily, or the Architectural Committee will be forced to take legal action against a county electrical inspector for installing permitted renewable energy equipment on my own house. But here's where the story gets interesting. As Janet's stalking back to her house in her designer heels, I'm noticing something that makes my professional instincts start tingling. Her electrical meter is positioned wrong. The conduit entering her house doesn't match county code requirements. And that outdoor lighting system she's so proud of. Those junction boxes look like they were installed by someone who's never heard of electrical safety standards. 3 days later, Janet makes good on her threat. A certified letter arrives demanding $12,000 in fines for unauthorized exterior modifications and architectural committee non-compliance. She's threatening legal action within 48 hours unless I remove my solar panels immediately. That's when Elena finds me in my home office, staring at Janet's house through the window with my electrical code book open on my desk. Marcus, what are you thinking? Elena knows that look. It's the same expression I get when I discover electrical work that's going to require a full investigation. Honey, Janet Morrison has been harassing us for 6 months about properly permitted solar panels. But I'm starting to wonder, when was the last time anyone actually inspected the electrical work in her house? Elena sits down beside me, following my gaze across the street. You mean professionally inspected? As in, County Electrical Inspector Marcus Rivera inspected? I'm pulling up county records on my laptop, cross-referencing permits and inspection reports. Janet's house was built in 2019, major electrical upgrades in 2021, pool installation with electrical work in 2022. But, Elena, look at this. The computer screen shows Janet's property record, electrical permits filed, inspection requests submitted. But here's the problem. The inspector's signatures on half these permits don't match any county electrical inspector on record. The permit numbers don't follow our departmental sequence. And some of these inspections were allegedly completed on dates when our entire department was attending mandatory state training conferences. Marcus, are you saying... I'm saying Janet Morrison might have more electrical problems than aesthetic preferences. The next morning, I decide to take a professional walk around the neighborhood. Not as Janet's annoying solar panel neighbor, but as Senior Electrical Inspector Rivera, conducting routine community safety assessments. What I discover makes my blood run cold. House after house shows signs of electrical work that doesn't match county permit records. Outdoor lighting installations that bypass proper grounding. Pool electrical systems with GFCI protection that's been circumvented. Hot tubs wired with extension cords instead of dedicated circuits. And Janet's house. Janet's house is the worst of all. Her outdoor kitchen has been wired with indoor rated electrical components. The hot tub electrical panel shows clear signs of moisture damage and corrosion. Her landscape lighting system is using automotive wire instead of proper underground cable. And that pool equipment shed. It's a death trap waiting to happen. I'm documenting everything with my phone, taking photos of obvious code violations and safety hazards. This isn't petty neighbor revenge. This is serious electrical safety work that could prevent house fires, electrocutions, and potentially save lives. But Janet Morrison apparently doesn't understand the difference. Marcus! She's marching across her lawn toward me, waving her phone like a weapon. I'm calling the police. You're trespassing and harassing me. I'm standing on the public sidewalk with my county identification and inspection equipment. Janet, I'm conducting routine electrical safety inspections in response to insurance company requests. It's part of my job. Your job? Your job is removing those hideous solar panels from your roof. That's when I realized Janet Morrison has no idea who she's been threatening for 6 months. Janet, my job is Senior Electrical Inspector for Maricopa County. I approve and inspect every electrical installation in this area, including the work on your house. For the first time since I've known her, Janet Morrison looks uncertain. What do you mean? I'm holding up my official county inspector credentials and departmental identification. I mean, I'm the guy who signs off on electrical permits. I'm the guy who determines if electrical work meets safety codes. I'm the guy who can condemn houses for electrical hazards. And Janet, your house has enough electrical violations to keep it shut down for months. The color drains from her face. That's impossible. All our electrical work was properly permitted and inspected. By who? She's fumbling with her phone, scrolling through emails and documents. By certified county inspectors. We have all the paperwork. Janet, show me one inspection report with my signature. Show me one permit number that matches county records. Show me one piece of electrical work on your property that actually complies with current electrical codes. She can't, because none of it exists. What Janet Morrison doesn't know, what none of the Sunset Ridge homeowners know, is that they've all been victims of the biggest electrical contractor fraud scheme in Arizona history. A conspiracy involving fake permits, forged inspections, and electrical work so dangerous it violates every safety standard we've established to protect families. And I'm about to shut it all down. The next week, I begin official electrical safety inspections throughout Sunset Ridge Estates. Not as Janet's neighbor, but as Senior County Electrical Inspector Rivera, conducting emergency safety assessments in response to insurance fraud reports. What we discover shocks even me. 43 houses with electrical work that was never properly permitted. 37 properties with inspection reports signed by inspectors who don't exist. Pool installations with electrical hazards that could kill someone. Hot tub wiring that's been jury-rigged to bypass safety requirements. Landscape lighting systems that pose electrocution risks. The electrical contractor responsible for this massive fraud, Morrison and Associates Electrical Services, owned and operated by Janet Morrison's brother-in-law, Derek Morrison, a man who'd been masquerading as a licensed electrical contractor while performing work that violated every safety standard in the Arizona Electrical Code. But the scope of Derek Morrison's criminal operation goes far beyond simple contractor fraud. As Elena and I dig deeper into the investigation with FBI financial crimes specialists, we discover a sophisticated criminal enterprise that has been systematically defrauding families across Arizona while creating electrical hazards that could have resulted in mass casualties during any summer power emergency. Elena and I are sitting in our kitchen 3 weeks into the investigation, reviewing the massive fraud report that keeps growing with each property inspection. The documentation now fills 4 bankers' boxes with evidence that makes us question how such systematic corruption could operate for years without detection. Marcus, they've been running this electrical fraud scheme for 3 years across 17 different HOA communities in 4 counties, Elena says, turning through pages of evidence that document criminal activity spanning from Phoenix to Tucson. Fake permits with forged inspector signatures that fooled insurance companies, banks, and government agencies. Inspection reports that were allegedly completed on dates when your entire county department was attending mandatory training conferences in Tucson, meaning the inspections literally couldn't have happened. County permit numbers that don't exist in any government database, but were sophisticated enough to pass initial verification checks. I'm examining photographs of electrical installations that make my professional blood run cold, and my hands shake with anger at the criminal negligence these families have endured. Elena, Derek Morrison's company has defrauded homeowners out of $2.3 million in electrical work that doesn't meet basic safety standards, but the financial fraud is actually the least serious crime here. Some of these houses are literally death traps waiting to kill someone during the next power surge or electrical storm. Look at this pool installation from last September that passed county inspection. The photographs show pool electrical equipment that's been wired with standard household extension cords instead of dedicated GFCI protected circuits, creating electrocution hazards every time children enter the water. Hot tub installations where the electrical panels show clear water damage and corrosion because they were installed in locations that violate electrical code requirements for moisture protection, essentially turning relaxing family spas into potential electrocution chambers. Landscape lighting systems that use automotive wire instead of proper underground rated electrical cable, creating shock hazards every time homeowners water their lawns or children play in sprinklers. What happens to all these families now? Elena asks, and I can hear the pediatric nurse in her voice. The professional who spent her career protecting children, now watching an entire community's children endangered by criminal electrical negligence that could have been prevented with proper oversight. Now, I have to make the hardest professional decision of my career. I have to condemn houses where families live and children sleep. I have to shut off power to properties until they can be rewired completely and safely. And I have to explain to 847 residents why their electrical systems are so dangerous that they can't legally remain energized without immediate risk of electrocution, fire, or death. The investigation reveals layers of corruption that extend far beyond simple contractor fraud into systematic racketeering that has infected multiple levels of local government and business oversight. Janet Morrison hasn't just been recommending her brother-in-law's company. She's been systematically steering electrical contracts through HOA Architectural Committee requirements that mandated residents use approved contractors from a pre-selected list that included only Morrison and Associates and two other companies that were paying kickbacks to Janet personally through shell corporations and fake consulting fees. Homeowners who tried to use licensed, legitimate electrical contractors were told their permits wouldn't be approved by the Architectural Committee unless they used HOA-recommended services, effectively creating a captive market for fraudulent electrical work. Residents who questioned the electrical work quality or noticed safety problems were intimidated with HOA violation notices and fine threats designed to prevent them from seeking second opinions or reporting concerns to county authorities. And families who complained about electrical problems were told by Janet that their concerns weren't valid because all work had been properly inspected by county authorities, using documentation she knew was fraudulent. The financial records Elena and I review with the FBI investigators show a systematic pattern of electrical billing fraud that demonstrates sophisticated criminal planning and execution. Derek Morrison's company would submit invoices and electrical permit applications for code-compliant installations using proper materials, then actually perform substandard work using inferior components while pocketing the difference. A $12,000 electrical panel upgrade that was supposed to include modern circuit breakers and comprehensive GFCI protection would be completed with outdated breakers and bypass safety features that saved Derek Morrison $3,400 in materials costs while creating deadly electrical hazards that could kill children or elderly residents during routine electrical use. The most disturbing part, Elena observes as we read through victim statements that detail years of electrical problems dismissed by HOA leadership, is that Janet knew exactly what Derek was doing. She had to know these electrical installations were dangerous because she was getting copies of all the fake inspection reports. She was actively helping him endanger these families for 3 years while taking money to look the other way. And the human cost keeps mounting as our investigation expands. The electrical failures we've documented include 7 near electrocutions involving children and elderly residents who survived only because neighbors or family members were present to provide immediate assistance. 4 electrical fires that required emergency fire department response and resulted in property damage exceeding $180,000. 12 hot tub and pool electrical malfunctions that could have been fatal if children had been using the facilities during electrical failures. And 36 instances of electrical panels that posed immediate shock and fire hazards to families who had no idea their electrical systems were ticking time bombs installed by criminals. Marcus, Elena says quietly, studying the victim list with tears in her eyes, 3 of these families have children in the pediatric ICU where I work. I've been taking care of kids whose houses could have killed them, and I never knew their electrical systems were criminal death traps waiting to harm them. But the corruption extends even deeper into systematic fraud that has compromised electrical safety oversight across multiple government agencies. Derek Morrison didn't just forge county inspection signatures. He had accomplices in the county permitting office who were providing him with authentic blank permit forms, official county stamps, and advance notice of any legitimate inspections that might expose his fraudulent work. This conspiracy involved at least 6 county employees who were taking bribes to facilitate electrical fraud that endangered thousands of families. The emergency begins on Tuesday, July 15th, during a record-breaking Arizona heat wave, temperatures hitting 118 degrees. Air conditioning systems running at maximum capacity, electrical demand pushing every circuit to its limits. And that's when Derek Morrison's substandard electrical work starts failing catastrophically. The first house fire starts at 2:47 p.m. at 156 Sunset Drive, electrical panel explosion caused by improper wiring and inadequate breaker protection. The family escapes, but their house is uninhabitable. The second electrical failure happens at 4:23 p.m. Hot tub electrocution near miss at 201 Sunset Drive. GFCI protection that was bypassed to save money nearly kills a 12-year-old girl. By 6:15 p.m., I'm making the call I never wanted to make. Control, this is Inspector Rivera. I need emergency power disconnection for the entire Sunset Ridge development. We have multiple electrical failures and imminent safety hazards. Request fire department and paramedic support. The entire neighborhood goes dark. 847 families, no power, during a heat wave. Because of electrical work so dangerous, I can't legally allow it to continue operating. And at 7:30 p.m., Janet Morrison is standing in my office at the county building, begging me to restore power to her house. Marcus, please. My wine collection is worth $89,000. The temperature control system failed when you cut the power. I'll lose everything. I'm looking at her electrical inspection report. 47 code violations. Electrical hazards that could burn down her house or electrocute her family. Work performed by her brother-in-law's company using fake permits and forged county inspection approvals. Janet, your house can't have power restored until it passes emergency electrical safety inspection. Based on what I've documented, you're looking at complete electrical system replacement. But what about my wine collection? What about the families you've been endangering for 3 years? The insurance investigation reveals the full scope of the conspiracy. Derek Morrison's company has been submitting electrical work bills for code-compliant installations while actually performing substandard work using inferior materials. Janet's been using her HOA position to require residents to use approved contractors, meaning her brother-in-law's fraudulent company. And they've been splitting profits from the overcharged electrical work while cutting corners on safety. The financial damage is staggering. $2.3 million in electrical work that doesn't meet code requirements. $847,000 in fraudulent electrical permits and fake inspections. Insurance claims that will be denied due to non-compliant electrical installations. And property values that will plummet once the electrical fraud becomes public record. But the human cost is worse. Families displaced from homes that aren't safe to live in. Children who nearly died from electrical hazards. Elderly residents forced to relocate during a heat wave because their houses can't pass basic electrical safety inspections. The federal investigation begins when insurance companies start reporting coordinated fraud across multiple counties. FBI agents specializing in construction fraud. IRS investigators tracking unreported income. State Contractor Licensing Board reviews that will result in criminal charges. Janet Morrison's world collapses piece by piece. First, her brother-in-law Derek is arrested for contractor fraud, electrical code violations, and endangering public safety. His company loses its electrical contractor license permanently. Second, Janet faces criminal charges for conspiracy, fraud, and abuse of HOA authority for personal financial gain. Her real estate license is suspended pending investigation. Third, her house fails electrical inspection so catastrophically that it's condemned until complete electrical system replacement. Cost estimate, $127,000. Fourth, her insurance company denies all claims related to electrical damage because the electrical work was performed by an unlicensed contractor using fraudulent permits. Fifth, the other Sunset Ridge residents file a class action lawsuit against Janet personally for conspiracy and breach of fiduciary duty in her role as HOA president. The wine collection, $89,000 worth of vintage bottles, spoiled when the temperature control system failed during the emergency power disconnection. But the story doesn't end with Janet's spectacular downfall and Derek's federal prosecution. It continues with community transformation, electrical safety education, and renewable energy advocacy that prevents future tragedies while demonstrating how professional expertise can create lasting positive change that extends far beyond individual revenge. The power restoration process becomes a 6-week masterclass in electrical safety, community resilience, and federal oversight that transforms Sunset Ridge Estates into a nationally recognized model for residential electrical safety and renewable energy adoption. Every single house in the neighborhood requires emergency electrical inspection before power can be restored, with federal inspectors working alongside county personnel to ensure no dangerous electrical work escapes detection. Many properties need complete rewiring with modern electrical panels, comprehensive GFCI protection throughout all wet areas, and code-compliant installations that meet current safety standards rather than the substandard work Derek Morrison's criminal enterprise had been installing. Some families have to live in temporary housing provided by federal disaster relief funds, while their homes undergo electrical reconstruction that can take weeks or months depending on the extent of safety violations discovered. But something extraordinary happens during those 6 weeks of electrical rebuilding that nobody, including federal investigators, anticipated. The community comes together in ways that Janet Morrison's divisive HOA leadership had never allowed, creating bonds of mutual support and shared purpose that demonstrate how crises can strengthen rather than divide communities when people have competent leadership and clear information about dangers they're facing. Neighbors begin helping neighbors navigate complex insurance claims processes and electrical contractor selection procedures that most homeowners have never encountered. Licensed electrical professionals from across Arizona donate time and materials for families who can't afford emergency electrical repairs, creating a volunteer network that provides over $180,000 in donated electrical work for elderly residents and single-parent families who would otherwise be unable to afford safety upgrades. The county expedites permit approvals for legitimate electrical work performed by properly licensed contractors, streamlining bureaucratic processes that had been manipulated by Derek Morrison's conspiracy to create delays and confusion that facilitated fraud. Federal disaster assistance provides low-interest loans for electrical reconstruction, helping families afford necessary safety upgrades without facing financial ruin because of crimes committed against them. Elena and I open our home to 3 families whose houses require extensive electrical rewiring before they can be safely reoccupied. Our solar panel system, the same renewable energy installation Janet tried to fine me $12,000 for removing, provides backup electrical power for medical equipment, refrigerated medications, and essential electrical needs for displaced neighbors whose lives literally depend on reliable electricity. Mrs. Chen's oxygen concentrator runs off our solar power, while her house undergoes complete electrical reconstruction. The Martinez family's insulin storage stays properly refrigerated using our renewable energy system, while their kitchen electrical work is rebuilt to code standards. The Thompson children can do homework and maintain school schedules using our solar-powered lighting, while their parents work with insurance adjusters and electrical contractors to restore their home's electrical safety. Marcus, Elena says one evening, as we're watching the neighborhood slowly transform from an electrical disaster zone into a model community for electrical safety and renewable energy adoption, your solar panels are literally saving lives right now. While other houses sit dark and dangerous, our renewable energy system is providing clean, safe electrical power for families in crisis who have nowhere else to turn. She's absolutely right. The solar panels that Janet Morrison called industrial eyesores and aesthetic violations have become the neighborhood's electrical lifeline during the worst infrastructure crisis any of us have ever experienced. The system is generating enough clean energy to power essential medical equipment, maintain communication systems for coordinating disaster relief, and provide lighting for community meetings where residents organize mutual aid and support services. Diego and Miguel, our 8-year-old twins, become unofficial ambassadors for renewable energy education during the electrical restoration process, helping other children understand how solar panels work while their families benefit directly from clean energy systems that provide reliable power during emergencies. They help other children understand why electrical safety matters, how renewable energy can provide emergency power when traditional electrical systems fail, and how professional expertise protects families from dangers they might never recognize. Watching them explain photovoltaic energy conversion to their classmates while families around us benefit from our solar installation drives home the profound irony of Janet's aesthetic objections to renewable energy that actually provides essential services during community crises. Their enthusiasm for environmental education spreads to other children, creating a generation of renewable energy advocates who understand both the safety and environmental benefits of clean energy systems. 6 months after the electrical fraud exposure and neighborhood power restoration, Sunset Ridge Estates has been completely transformed into a model community for electrical safety and renewable energy adoption that attracts visitors from other states interested in implementing similar safety and environmental programs. Property values have actually increased by 12% because every house now has verified safe electrical systems, with documented county inspection approval and comprehensive safety documentation that provides peace of mind for families and insurance companies. Insurance rates have decreased significantly because of comprehensive electrical compliance documentation and reduced fire risk from properly installed electrical systems that meet or exceed current safety codes. The neighborhood now has the lowest electrical fire insurance rates in Maricopa County, saving families hundreds of dollars annually while providing superior electrical safety for children and elderly residents. The transformation extends far beyond just electrical infrastructure into comprehensive community governance that prioritizes safety over aesthetics and environmental responsibility over arbitrary architectural restrictions. The community has elected a new HOA board led by Maria Santos, a retired electrical engineer who understands both electrical safety requirements and renewable energy benefits from professional experience designing electrical systems for commercial and residential applications. The new board has implemented transparent contractor selection processes that require verified licensing, insurance coverage, and county inspector approval for all electrical work. Mandatory electrical safety education programs ensure all residents understand basic electrical safety principles, recognize warning signs of electrical problems, and know how to report safety concerns to appropriate authorities rather than ignoring problems until they become dangerous. Incentive programs for renewable energy adoption provide financial assistance and technical support for families interested in installing solar systems, encouraging environmental responsibility while building community resilience through distributed clean energy generation that can provide backup power during emergencies or grid failures. 17 families have installed solar panel systems since the electrical fraud exposure, inspired by seeing how our renewable energy installation provided reliable power during the community crisis and continues providing environmental and financial benefits for our family. The neighborhood now generates 180% more clean energy than before Janet Morrison's crusade against solar panels began, demonstrating how environmental education and community support can overcome aesthetic prejudices and regulatory harassment. Property values continue rising as buyers specifically seek homes in communities known for electrical safety, environmental responsibility, and transparent governance that protects rather than endangers residents. Sunset Ridge Estates has become a destination community for families who prioritize safety, sustainability, and competent leadership over superficial aesthetics and arbitrary restrictions. Janet Morrison's house sits empty with a "for sale" sign that's been there for 7 months without a single serious offer from qualified buyers. No responsible purchaser wants a property that requires $127,000 in electrical work just to be habitable, especially when the electrical fraud history has become public record that will follow the property permanently and potentially affect insurance coverage and resale value for decades. The wine collection she was so desperate to save during the power outage represents more than just financial loss. It symbolizes her misplaced priorities and criminal negligence that put aesthetics over safety and personal profit over community welfare. Total loss: $89,000 worth of vintage bottles, spoiled when her illegally wired temperature control system failed during the emergency electrical disconnection that saved the neighborhood from potential electrical fires that could have killed families. Derek Morrison faces federal criminal charges for contractor fraud, electrical code violations, and criminal endangerment that could result in 15 years in federal prison and $2.3 million in criminal restitution payments to victim families. His company owes additional punitive damages that could reach $8 million based on pain and suffering calculations for families who lived with deadly electrical hazards for years without knowing they were in constant danger. The state contractor licensing board has permanently revoked his electrical license and banned him from any construction-related business activities in Arizona, preventing him from continuing to endanger families through substandard electrical work. Federal authorities have seized his assets, including vehicles, equipment, and real estate purchased with proceeds from electrical fraud, ensuring victim families receive maximum possible compensation for damages they suffered. The federal investigation has expanded to include other HOA communities where Morrison and associates performed electrical work, revealing similar fraud patterns in 12 additional neighborhoods across 3 counties with estimated total damages exceeding $7 million in dangerous electrical installations that endangered thousands of families across Arizona. FBI agents have identified a statewide network of contractor fraud that involved corruption in multiple county permitting offices, systematic intimidation of homeowners who questioned electrical work quality, and organized criminal enterprise that operated across county lines to avoid detection and prosecution. This investigation will ultimately result in federal charges against 23 individuals involved in electrical contractor fraud that endangered over 2,400 families throughout Arizona. My role in exposing the electrical fraud has led to professional recognition and community leadership opportunities that extend far beyond Sunset Ridge Estates into statewide electrical safety advocacy and renewable energy promotion that helps families throughout Arizona avoid similar fraud while adopting clean energy systems that provide environmental and financial benefits. The county has asked me to develop electrical safety education programs specifically for HOA communities, creating guidelines that prevent future electrical fraud while promoting renewable energy adoption and proper contractor oversight that protects families from both safety hazards and financial exploitation. These programs now include comprehensive contractor verification procedures, resident education about electrical safety warning signs, and community oversight systems that prevent HOA boards from steering contracts to fraudulent companies through architectural committee requirements or other coercive tactics that create captive markets for criminal enterprises. Elena and I have established the Rivera Family Foundation for Electrical Safety Education, a nonprofit organization that provides free electrical safety inspections for low-income families and educational resources for communities dealing with electrical contractor fraud or safety concerns that might not be addressed through normal regulatory channels. We work directly with victim families to navigate complex insurance claims processes, connect them with legitimate electrical contractors who provide quality work at fair prices, and provide financial assistance for emergency electrical repairs when families can't afford necessary safety upgrades because of financial exploitation by fraudulent contractors. Our foundation has helped over 60 families obtain safe electrical systems while avoiding contractor fraud, saving families an estimated $340,000 in unnecessary electrical work while ensuring their homes meet current safety standards that protect children and elderly residents from electrocution, fires, and other electrical hazards. Diego and Miguel, now 9 years old, actively participate in our foundation's educational outreach programs that visit schools, community centers, and family education events throughout Arizona. They help teach other children about electrical safety principles, renewable energy benefits, and community responsibility that empowers families to make informed decisions about electrical contractors and energy systems. Watching them explain how solar panels work to elementary school classes and assist with electrical safety demonstrations gives me hope that their generation will prioritize environmental responsibility and professional expertise over aesthetic complaints and fraudulent shortcuts that endanger families and communities. Their enthusiasm for electrical safety education has inspired other children to become environmental advocates who understand the connections between electrical safety, renewable energy, and community responsibility that protects families while promoting sustainable energy solutions. The most meaningful professional recognition came when the Arizona Solar Energy Association presented me with their Community Leadership Award for promoting renewable energy education and exposing electrical fraud that threatened solar energy adoption throughout the state. The award citation specifically noted how my solar panel installation became a community lifeline during the electrical crisis, demonstrating the emergency preparedness benefits of renewable energy systems that provide backup power when traditional electrical infrastructure fails. But the recognition that means the most came from the National Electrical Contractors Association, which presented me with their Public Safety Award for exposing contractor fraud that could have resulted in mass casualties during electrical emergencies. The association noted that my investigation prevented potential deaths and established new standards for electrical fraud detection that protect families throughout the United States. However, the most personally satisfying moment came when Maria Santos, Janet Morrison's replacement as HOA president, thanked me publicly during a community meeting attended by 67 families whose electrical systems I'd helped restore to safe, code-compliant condition that protects their children and provides reliable power for medical equipment and essential family needs. Marcus Rivera's professional integrity and electrical expertise literally saved lives in our community, Maria announced, to sustained applause from neighbors who'd lived through the electrical fraud crisis and understood how close they'd come to preventable tragedies that could have destroyed families. His solar panel installation was never the problem. It was always the solution. The real problem was corruption and fraud masquerading as architectural standards and environmental harassment disguised as property value protection. Today, Sunset Ridge Estates has 67 residential solar installations, making it one of Arizona's leading communities for renewable energy adoption and environmental responsibility that serves as a model for other neighborhoods interested in combining electrical safety with clean energy systems. Property values have increased 15% due to verified electrical safety, documented renewable energy infrastructure, and the community's reputation for environmental responsibility and transparent governance. Insurance companies offer premium discounts for homes in our neighborhood because of our electrical safety record and reduced fire risk from professional electrical installations that meet or exceed current safety codes. Our community has become a case study for insurance industry best practices in electrical safety verification and renewable energy risk assessment. The community has become a destination for families, electrical professionals, and government officials interested in learning about electrical safety, renewable energy adoption, and community governance that protects rather than exploits residents. We host monthly educational workshops where families from other communities learn about electrical safety principles, renewable energy benefits, and HOA governance accountability that prevents corruption and protects community welfare. Our story has been featured in electrical trade magazines, environmental publications, and local news reports about community resilience and professional fraud prevention that demonstrate how individual expertise can create systemic change protecting thousands of families. The Arizona State Legislature has used our case as the foundation for new laws requiring enhanced oversight of HOA contractor recommendations and stronger penalties for electrical contractor fraud that endangers families. I continue working as Senior Electrical Inspector for Maricopa County, where I've now personally approved over 4,200 renewable energy installations that help Arizona families reduce their environmental impact and electricity costs while building community resilience through distributed clean energy generation. My role has expanded to include fraud prevention education, teaching electrical contractors, HOA board members, and homeowners how to identify and prevent electrical contractor fraud before it endangers families or destroys communities. The county has implemented new verification procedures for electrical permits and inspections based directly on lessons learned from the Morrison and Associates investigation, creating safeguards that make similar fraud schemes virtually impossible to execute without immediate detection. These procedures now serve as a model for electrical safety oversight in communities throughout the southwestern United States. My testimony before congressional committees about electrical contractor fraud and renewable energy harassment has influenced federal legislation that strengthens protections for homeowners installing solar systems while enhancing penalties for contractor fraud that exploits families seeking to reduce their environmental impact. This legislation has prevented similar fraud schemes in other states while promoting renewable energy adoption that benefits families and communities nationwide. The Rivera Family Foundation has expanded to operate in 6 states, providing electrical safety education and fraud prevention resources that have helped over 300 families avoid contractor fraud while obtaining safe, reliable electrical systems that protect their children and provide clean energy for their communities. Our programs have saved families an estimated $1.2 million in unnecessary electrical work while ensuring their homes meet safety standards that prevent electrocutions, fires, and other preventable tragedies. Elena has developed specialized pediatric protocols for electrical safety education that help children understand electrical hazards while encouraging interest in renewable energy and environmental responsibility. Her programs are now used in pediatric hospitals throughout Arizona to educate families about home electrical safety while children receive medical care, creating opportunities to prevent electrical injuries before they occur. Diego and Miguel, now approaching their 10th birthday, have become nationally recognized advocates for electrical safety and renewable energy education, who speak at conferences and educational events throughout the country. Their presentation about how solar panels saved their community during an electrical crisis has inspired thousands of children to learn about renewable energy while understanding the importance of electrical safety in their own homes. The Twins Educational Foundation, Kids for Clean Energy, has raised over $45,000 for renewable energy education programs in elementary schools, helping children understand environmental responsibility while learning about electrical safety and sustainable energy solutions their generation will need to address climate change. Sometimes David does beat Goliath, especially when David has professional electrical expertise, community support, and federal law enforcement backing up environmental protection and public safety. But the real victory isn't individual revenge against Janet Morrison's environmental harassment. It's comprehensive community transformation that protects families, promotes renewable energy, and demonstrates how professional integrity can overcome corruption and fraud while creating lasting positive change. The systematic change we've created extends far beyond Sunset Ridge Estates to influence electrical safety oversight, renewable energy adoption, and community governance throughout Arizona and beyond. Janet Morrison's attempt to harass me for installing solar panels ultimately resulted in federal legislation, statewide safety improvements, and educational programs that protect thousands of families while promoting environmental responsibility. Your renewable energy battle or electrical safety concern contributes to a larger movement for environmental protection and community safety that benefits families throughout the country. Every story of environmental harassment, contractor fraud, or community discrimination helps build awareness that protects other families from similar dangers while promoting clean energy adoption that benefits everyone. Share your experiences in the comments below, and let's create a comprehensive database of knowledge that helps communities fight back against fraud and harassment with professional expertise and legal accountability that creates lasting positive change. Your story could prevent another family from facing electrical hazards or environmental harassment while encouraging renewable energy adoption in your community. Remember that qualified electrical professionals exist to protect families and promote safe renewable energy adoption that benefits both individual households and entire communities. Environmental bullies and aesthetic complaints should never prevent you from reducing your carbon footprint, lowering your electricity bills, or installing renewable energy systems that provide emergency backup power while contributing to environmental sustainability. Professional expertise, federal environmental protection laws, and community solidarity can overcome any aesthetic objection or fraudulent harassment campaign while creating systemic changes that protect future generations from similar dangers. Your individual action for environmental responsibility contributes to community-wide transformation that demonstrates the power of professional knowledge and community cooperation. Thanks for joining us on HOA Revenge Stories, where environmental progress meets professional justice and community transformation, creates lasting positive change that extends far beyond individual conflicts. If this story inspired you to consider renewable energy or motivated you to research electrical safety in your own neighborhood, smash that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories where professional expertise defeats corruption, environmental protection overcomes aesthetic complaints, and community cooperation creates systemic change that protects families while promoting sustainable energy solutions for future generations.